Why is personal branding so important, even if you don't own your own business? Stay tuned. This is Damon Cart from NLP Gym. Personal branding. Why is it so important? If you haven't already, please click subscribe to this YouTube channel so you can get these videos on a regular basis. And once again, I'm here with Dr. Matt, continuing this series of conversations that we've been having since we first met a week ago in San Diego, California, having these mind-blowing conversations that we just had to get on video. And this one is quite a part of one of your big studies.
Yes, it's based on my research, which I did for my PhD dissertation in economy, and it's based on how to create a personal brand on a YouTube channel. And I compared European markets with American markets. So not only do I do this practically, because I've got more than 500,000 followers on my social media, so I know what it looks like from behind the curtain, but also I research the topic so I can give very practical, scientifically proven to work insights into the whole personal branding thing, which is really, really important for anyone who's interested in monetization of the internet and anyone who uses social media.
Yeah, see, this is the thing. I think a lot of people what they don't realize is that you're creating a personal brand anytime you're on social media. And this is, and people say, well, why is that important? Because I'm not looking to make money off of social media, or I don't have a business. This is enormously important. Guys, if you've ever connected with a woman on a dating app, believe me, they've Googled you, and they've tried to find you on Facebook,
right.
They found you on Instagram, and they may have even friended you and you didn't realize that that's who they were. Or if you go to apply for a job, I know as an employer, I look for people on social media. I want to know more about this person. How are they represented on the internet?
Well, see, you touched a very important subject because for example, we all know that people put information in their CV, which is not really always based on facts, or at least there's a better story than the facts are showing, right? And there's plenty of research which shows that people don't trust what's on CV that much when they hire the others. So they would rather go on social media and see what they put on Facebook. And now here's many possibilities. Imagine that an average Joe is applying for a job, and then because he had this amazing party a couple of months ago, right? He and his friends, his spouse decided to put a picture, right, when he's so drunk, right? And they put, it was the party of the year kind of thing. Now this person might not be hired even before they presented themselves. I know it's not just, right? I know it's not fair, and I do realize that people will not talk about this out loud because it's a taboo topic. We shouldn't judge people on first impressions. But we do. There's plenty of research, psychological, serious research, which shows that we do judge people on first impressions, and if we don't realize that who we are in social media is just a fragmented version of our virtual image, we will lose the opportunity to show people who we truly are as human beings, right? So whenever I put any kind of comments on the internet, whenever I post a picture, I am creating my personal brand. And it doesn't matter if you're a celebrity or not, because for your friends, you're also a brand. And considering certain statistics, and just to name a few, 60% of American adults are on Facebook. 79% of American internet users use Facebook. YouTube has 1.5 billion views monthly, right? We're talking about very serious power that can be used, right? One of the most famous YouTubers on this planet, PewDiePie, he did more than $14 million annually just because of, well, to be precise, playing computer games, right? Yeah. So this is what he does. And considering that he has got millions of followers, it's like having your own absolute monarchy country, right? Where, by the way, the biggest country in the world right now is Facebook. You do realize that, right? Yeah. This is very important,
2
right?
2 billion, what, something like that?
Yeah, 2 billion people, right? This is the biggest country in the world, right? So it's not Russia anymore. And the point is that this guy, like PewDiePie, or any other who has millions of followers, is literally in front of, sitting on the throne of a queen or a king of absolute monarchy, and people will listen to unconsciously perceived and implemented laws and regulations to what their leaders, key opinion leaders to be precise and more scientific, are saying. So it is very, very powerful, and considering that there's no barriers to enter it, right? Because you can be on Facebook for free, you can open a YouTube channel for free. Once you do this, if you do this in English, 1.5 billion people who speak English can watch what you're doing. If you do it without the language, then basically the world is yours, right? You can become a celebrity, you can make money on it, you can get a job because of it, you can meet a person for romantic relationship, you can lose a job if you post something stupid, and there's loads of examples when people, for example, say, on Friday they say, finally, I'm getting out of this shitty job, I'm so tired, and then their boss says, John, don't you remember that we were friends on Facebook, right? I mean, and what is the person going to say? It was just a joke. It doesn't work this way because the first impression has been made, right? Or poison has been already put into the system. And we don't realize, and my research was exactly focused on that what we do by commenting or posting information, any kind of information on the internet, is public domain, and it is personal branding, which is it creates your image. To be precise, 55% of Americans who are researched, more than 1,000 people took part in my research, they realize what personal branding is. The rest leaves comments, but they don't realize that what they leave as a comment is there and probably will not disappear.
I think that's the scary part about this, is that people don't realize that they're branding themselves, whether they know it or not. They're branding themselves anytime you put something out there.
To be exact, 47% of Americans use social media for different reasons. They're branding themselves. So they are unconscious that any kind of comment that they leave is already personal branding. So once you do it, you should really know how to do it, not to commit certain mistakes.
Yeah, it's a matter of branding is happening whether you want it to or not.
Right.
But there's a silver lining here, which is that you can start to understand how you do this, so you can make yourself look really good.
Precisely, and it's not only for personal branding, but also for the companies, because when it comes to shopping, 76% of people who are researched, they say that what their friends from social media bought influence them to buy the same product. 24% of people say that if the brand is not present on social media, then they're not trustworthy and that they lost the game, right? People who are fans and they like the profile of the company, then they are twice that eager to buy the product. So we're talking about serious monetization here, right? And even if you don't sell a physical product, you always sell yourself in a very positive sense, because you sell your skills to an employer, you sell yourself to a girlfriend or a boyfriend, right? Personal branding, which is your reputation, is everywhere. And originally, historically, it was always connected with business, right? So people would think, okay, if I'm not a CEO, if I don't do sales or maybe online marketing, then I don't need it. But nowadays, it's gone mainstream. Everybody is doing this, right? And there's so many people who use social media. If you consider that 68% of adult American population does it, right? And 79% of people who use internet are on Facebook, then everyone is telling a story and producing a certain image of themselves. The question is how to do this.
Yeah, this is the whole point of becoming conscious of this, and it's just like influencing. You can't not influence. We're always influencing, no matter if we realize it or not. And so you're influencing on the internet. Anytime you put anything out there, you would have to not get onto the internet at all.
There you go.
But then you're still subject to influence from the internet, because we live in a world where people are being influenced by the internet, which means it'll get to you eventually.
Well, nowadays, it's enough to take a picture of somebody, produce a meme, right, or any kind of comment, which not necessarily needs to be positive, and destroy someone's reputation. You can work for your reputation for 20 years and lose it in 20 minutes if someone doesn't know how to produce counter examples and prove and defend their reputation. If there's any kind of war of the future, it's definitely going to be digital war, and it's going to be not real material kidnapping, but reputation kidnapping, where people will simply sabotage their images on the internet, because this is how we nowadays meet. Right?
So what can we do?
Well, firstly, we should become aware, right? We should get to know what the research on this topic shows. It's very new. When I did this in the States, I was flabbergasted with the result. What do you think is number one reason that why Americans use YouTube, and brand themselves personally on YouTube, on social media? What is the main reason, you think?
My just guess would be entertainment.
Well, yeah, this is what is the first thing that comes to mind. But the main reason why they construct a personal brand is to be well perceived by others.
Oh, yeah.
So basically it means that they have digitalized their self-esteem. Do you know what this means? It means that you are putting outside in external reality, which you completely cannot control, the most important thing, which basically creates your behaviors and quality of your life, which is your self-esteem. This is not the right reason to use social media, because you will always find the person who's uneducated, who's angry, who doesn't understand you, or whatever, who will hate what you do, or who will comment negatively what you're doing. Hence, the research shows that people who use a lot of social media can go into depression, because they put their self-value and self-worth outside. It's not a good reason. We should use it for commercial purposes or to brand ourselves well in marketing reality. So always when you create a personal brand, and you do if you use social media, firstly, focus on objectives and visions that you have. For example, say somebody wants to get a job, right? So this is an objective. Or someone is in online digital marketing. So this is an objective. Always realize that Damon or Matt in internet is not for us. It's a product, right? I will use this metaphor. Even if you don't like dog food, it's enough that your dog likes it, as long as you pay for it, right? So once it's there in the internet, it's not yours anymore, it's public domain. When you know your objective, then you create yourself and you brand yourself in the way that the client needs. So step number 2, you need to target your audience, and you need to psychographically and demographically define their needs. What are their age, what's the gender, where do they live, which language do they speak, what kind of problems they have, what kind of ambitions they have, what kind of objectives they want to pursue, what kind of relationships they form, what kind of typical words and vocabulary they use, so that you use the exact language in order to gain attention of this group. Because once your audience is targeted well, you brand yourself as a certain archetype. If you don't do it well, you can attract different conflicted groups. For example, you can attract people who are rebels and people who want power at the same time. If you do, on your social media, there's going to be a constant quarrel, which you want to avoid, right? Because this will drain your energy. So once you decided who your target audience is, then you go into a storytelling mode. You tell a story about yourself. And this story presents certain features of yours in such a way that are attractive to the target audience that you want to communicate with. And finally, you decide upon the social media strategy. Which platform should I use? Maybe I should use Snapchat. Is your audience younger? No, it's not. Then maybe it's not about Snapchat, right? Is your audience male or female? Well, it's male and female, so Facebook is fine. How about if I wanted to target females? Then Pinterest, for example, or Instagram, and so on and so on. So you get down to all those statistics, and you choose whom you want to target. And once you do this, you operate, you execute it, and you simply see how it's going, getting feedback, and deciding what to improve. Once you have it, this is where the real game begins, because now you created community. If you have community, it's not only about the fact that you can make money of it because advertisement contracts come. This is just one side of this aspect. Another side is that you can sell information to community. For example, because I have 500,000 people in my social media, and I've written 13 books. Whenever I publish a new book, it automatically becomes a bestseller, right? Why? Because there's such a target audience that is interested in what I do. So here comes the question. If I decided to open a restaurant, Dr. Matt's restaurant, wouldn't it be another success story just because I have a community? See, this is the intelligence of it. The point is that people think, I have a product, who's going to buy it? I think differently. I have a target group. What should I sell, right? So firstly, you create this community, and later you can function the way you want to. Even if you don't want to go big, just be conscious of what you're doing in the internet.
Yeah. And there have been people who were conscious of how they were presenting themselves as a personal brand to their friends,
right,
who ended up creating businesses out of it because the content they were putting out there was attracting so many people, and their friends were saying, hey, you got to see this guy's or this woman's stuff or the entertainment. And when I was at VidCon, that's how some of them got started. They were a personal brand. They weren't trying to make money, and then it turned into something like that. And also, I encounter from time to time businesses, and they say, "Oh, don't do that social media thing." That's like death in the business world. Yeah,
it is literally that, because people will not find these companies trustworthy, right? They will not buy from them, and this will be in the nearest future. Personal brand will actually be the only way to get to know who Damon or Matt in reality are. Because in fact, we get connected nowadays by social media. It's social media era. So before people get to know who you are, they will have an opinion about you. So here comes the question. Do you want them to have an opinion based on their stereotypes, or do you want to give people an opinion about you which is based on your facts? And this is it's a fascinating concept. We think that people who judge us, they judge us the way we judge ourselves. No, it's internet. It's distorted completely, right? When I communicate with you, you feel me. You know what it's like. This is life happening, going on, right? There's people singing. It's real. It's authentic. When it comes to internet, most of this doesn't exist. People cannot feel what's happening in such a way. They have audio and video given, right? And if it's only an image, I mean, it can be photoshopped the way you want to, right? It's not really that you have a social media profile only. It becomes the representation of yours and the first step to get to know you before somebody, if they decide to, gets to know you in person. So it's basically a passport and a bridge between virtual world and authenticity in the real world.
And what you were saying about nothing is private anymore, I mean, that is so true that your personal brand and your business brand, if you have a business, or your career, they become one and the same.
Right.
They become merged no matter what.
Of course.
There is no separating that. And so your personal brand is your business brand, and your business brand is your personal brand.
Of course. And you, from a marketing standpoint, are a product, right? I'm not a product for my wife, I'm not a product for you, I'm not a product for my daughter, but I am a product when it comes to internet. And we should understand that this is why Dr. Matt is not for me, neither for my wife. It's not that I come back home and she says, Dr. Matt, welcome home, right? It just doesn't happen. But I'm Dr. Matt for all these other people who don't know me yet. But if they do, this is by the means of personal brands, right? So I need to follow certain strategies, and we also researched it, what makes a brand successful, right? So when you're interactive, right? When you interact with your audience, when you choose the target group well, when you meet them live. You said that there was a VidCon, this big gathering, right, of guys. So they should do it. Book publishing. Very important, because the more they read about you, the more important you become. You can become webrites. Did I mention this in our conversations? Webrites. Yeah. Instead of celebrity, you become a webrity, right? Webrity is way cheaper than becoming a celebrity. You don't have to go on formal TV, right? You take your phone or your smartphone, you start recording yourself. If it's clever, if it's done according to the strategies we're talking about, then you will be successful. And once you're successful, then the money comes in, then the fame comes in, then popularity comes in, and different possibilities come in.
On the first day that I met you, you said something that just made so much sense and is so profound, and that is the webrities, or what they call the online influencers, they have more influence over the products you buy than, say, a movie star or a TV star endorsing a product. And it took me a while to really process that. And it makes so much sense, because when I was at VidCon, that's what these people do. The sponsors look for these online influencers because they are so close to their fans. Whenever I was at VidCon, they were celebrities, but you could just walk up to them and it was no big deal. And they want to meet you. They want to meet the people who are following them. There's a wall that has been torn down between the webrities versus the TV celebrities and the movie celebrities. We're not going to listen to the movie stars so much and the TV stars because they're less real to us. But the people who are on YouTube or on Facebook, who are on these other platforms, they're more real to us.
See, the main identification theme that's taking place with key opinion leaders, as we officially call them, right, or webrities, is because I can become one of them.
Right.
I can get a smartphone, actually have one. It's only a question of a creative idea, putting myself on the internet, and let's see, maybe it becomes a viral, maybe tomorrow, I will get a TV contract or something like this. So the hope has become more probabilistic nowadays that you actually can do it. My research has shown that 69% of Americans, they know some web retail. So considering also and adding to it the fact that American teenagers, Generation Z, spends around 12 hours in front of some sort of screen, if it's smartphone or a computer, we're talking about people who don't treat virtual reality as a separate entity. It is reality. So virtual has become real for them, right? And these influencers, they're authentic. The barriers of entry are way cheaper. They are accessible to everyone. I can identify with them. Some of them are actually my high school friends, right? So I can be like them, and they are real, and the message they give is not biased because it's so not so politically steered as it is in traditional media, right? Besides, there's a migration concept of celebrities into celebrities. Nowadays, if you start on internet, you can end up in traditional media, right? And become a star. It has happened many times. You mentioned about influence when it comes to shopping. Let's talk about charity work. Let's talk about politics. I mean, President Obama was invited by YouTubers, right? So, and they had a conversation. So we're not talking the most famous journalists with such a background and experience. We're talking young people from YouTube, right? Who happens to understand how this game operates, right? So I believe that it's a question of time when everyone is going to be a YouTuber, and everyone is going to be a blogger, and everyone is going to be a Facebooker, or whatever we're going to call them, because simply it's not a question of it's a useful skill to have, it's obligatory. You have to know how it functions. You have to know how to construct your personal brand, because if you do this strategically, and this is precisely what I was working on and what I'm working on, the difference being that before I was working only with CEOs, with celebrities, with online marketers, but now I'm working with regular people who want to learn this because it's so useful. The difference being that before it was for others, but nowadays it's for everyone. So do this in a clever way, because it will save you trouble, money, and it will bring success, not mentioning all the mistakes that people can make, right? Because it can really destroy someone's lives.
All right, well, I think that's where we're going to leave it for now. We have more interesting conversations, interesting topics to talk about, and if you haven't seen the ones previous to this, check those out as well. Dr. Matt is an enormous wealth of information and resources. I love picking your brain.
Thank you very much. Keep on picking my brain then. Right. Hope you liked it. Thank you very much.
Check out my website, nlp-gym.com. Follow me on Facebook for real-time updates on upcoming events. Also, if you like this video, please click like right down here and leave a comment or a question. I will follow up with you. And of course, last but not least, make sure you subscribe so you can get these videos on a regular basis. Take care.